3, 2, 1. Welcome. Oh, it's probably gone. It takes a few goals sometimes. Don't worry. It's not. Sometimes I'm like, it takes a few goals. No.
You're taking the goals.
This video is sponsored by Eric's Gear. Go to www.ericsgear.com and @ericsgear on Instagram. They have the best combat clothing. Make sure you give them a go, give them a follow, give them a subscribe. And a massive thank you to Azam here. Thanks to him, we've come to Hazev Restaurant. They've sorted us out with the best hospitality. If you're in London or Canary Wharf, make sure you come down and get some good food because it looks unbelievable. Thank you, Azam, brother.
Turkish food, yeah?
There we go.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
All the best.
This weekend, UFC 286, the biggest card in UK MMA history. Leon Rocky Edwards against Kamaru Usman. The big trilogy is going to be fireworks. And I'm joined today by Adam Catterall. How you doing, mate?
Sound, man. Sound. How can you not get excited at the prospect of a UFC world title happening on British soil? Doesn't happen that often. I've only ever seen one previously. And that was what? Do my maths quick, 7 years ago. Now we're getting another
7
one.
years ago, really?
And we're getting one on actual prime time. Last time, it was obviously in the early hours of the morning in Manchester when Bisping defended against Henderson. To get this opportunity now to do this on British prime time is a real honour, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this this weekend.
I can't wait. I think when you compare that title card compared to this one as well, it's like night and day, the quality of the card. I mean, not to disrespect or shit on.
How dare you?
No, not to do that. But, you know, come on.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's
But
just...
I think, what I think you're saying is that MMA and the UFC in particular has come on leaps and bounds since that time. Obviously, the main event, everybody knows who Michael Bisping is, everybody knows who Dan Henderson is. If you look down the list of some of the guys that participated in that, I mean, Leon Edwards was on that card, and obviously he's come good over a period of time. There's a lot of guys that at the time you thought to yourself were going to go on to be superstars that have maybe gone and done it somewhere else, like a Gegard Mousasi, for example. I remember thinking going into that, I was really high on Mark Diakiese. Not that I'm not still high on Mark Diakiese, of course I am, but I actually thought that his trajectory would be a lot quicker to where he's at right now. So I completely understand what you're saying. When you look at this, everybody in the modern day knows who Justin Gaethje is, Rafael Fiziev, you know who Marvin Vettori is, Roman Dolidze is one of those that's coming through. You've obviously got some great British talent. And that's it. That's testament to where we're at as fans of British mixed martial arts. Back then, the guys that you were probably looking at the most, you'd just been through a period of Michael Bisping, Dan Hardy, Ross Pearson, Jimmy Manuwa was on that card as well, of course. I'm not saying that Dan Hardy was on the card, but Jimmy Manuwa was on that card. There was like this, and lads, if you're going to give me shit for this, I apologise, but the OGs, the OGs coming through. Now this is the new breed. There's a new breed here, and it's extremely exciting.
How do you think the new breed is a result of MMA growing exponentially anyway, and the sport growing bigly, or do you think it's because of just British fighters just coming through and seeing the likes of Michael Bisping?
I think it would have grown anyway because of the thirst and the love for MMA. But I think it being highlighted is because of Bisping. Bisping becomes world champion in 2016. Then all of a sudden there's an interest in it. It's like anywhere that you go in the world. If you get a champion from a particular territory, people are then going to say, what else is there in this territory? Well, it was always there in the territory. You're now just investing in it, unearthing it, and trying to find it a little bit more. So I think it would have always been here. I think people would still have been doing what they were doing. But because of Bisping's win and becoming the first champion, all of a sudden then it just creates a little bit more of a highlight, a little bit more of a showcase for British mixed martial arts, of which now we're starting to really see on the very highest.
It's really amazing.
Level.
It's really amazing to see how many contenders we have in so many divisions now. We could look at it in a few years' time. We could have multiple UFC champions.
Yeah, I'd say, I know he's injured, but we've got one in heavyweight. There's no doubt about that. And as you come down these weight categories, of course, we've flirted with a couple that you thought maybe or maybe not. Arnold's fighting Max Holloway in a couple of weeks' time. He's a contender. There's no doubt about that. And even on this card, you look at people like Jack Shaw, who have maybe gone under the radar. I know he's changed weight categories now, and he's entering a different weight category. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes on at the weekend. I know Nathaniel's kind of fallen off this particular card. But for me, Nathaniel versus Lerone Murphy, that was a fight that we were going to find out which of these British lads was going to be ranked next, and then I genuinely thought the winner of that would be shooting up that particular division. So you're right in what you're saying. We've got, if I don't mention Mohamed Mokaev, he'll probably come for me in the flyweight division. He's a ranked fighter. I don't know what this does for him at the weekend, but definitely if he has 2 or 3 this year, he's going to be looking to try and make a real inroad at that low weight category.
Let's get into it. Usman against Edwards. Where do you think this fight goes?
This fight, in my opinion, goes the way that I originally thought it would go. Nobody would have predicted that first fight. It was a Rocky Balboa script, wasn't it? I think the way that it finishes kind of is a metaphor for Leon's life. Obviously, the highs, the lows, the rocky paths, pardon the pun, the horrible 2 to 3 years that he had in the build-up to that particular fight, getting the title shot, and you kind of think, with a minute left of the 5th round, you think, he's blown it. He's absolutely blown it. He had success in the first round in the grappling exchanges.
He looked amazing in that first round.
He looked really good. Really, really good. And you thought to yourself, after that first 5 minutes, you think, we have got a fight on our hands. But the champion did what the champion does. Kamaru does what he's absolutely brilliant at. He nullified everything that Leon did, took all Leon's strengths away, and battered him. Let's be straight, he battered him for 15 minutes. And the fight, in fact, longer than 15 minutes, 19 minutes. Yeah. The fight's done. It's absolutely cooked. It's in the books. Kamaru's moving on to a fight with Canelo, or whatever he's moving on to, trying to increase his own legacy. And then lightning strikes, and I've seen loads of people online saying, oh, it's a lucky shot. It's not a lucky shot. He's been trying to set that up for a period of time. Kamaru zigs when he should have zagged, and it lands at the moment that it was supposed to land, and Leon becomes world champion. Before that fight took place, the prediction that I made was that Leon Edwards was technical enough to outpoint Kamaru Usman in not an attractive fight. One of those that maybe there's a bit of grappling in there. It's not nice up against the fence. There's a few elbows off clinches and various things like that. But I thought that he would do enough to maybe win a fight 3-2. I think that's what we might get this weekend. Others, because of the way that second fight has played out, are in total disagreement with me. They're thinking Kamaru, obviously, is going to want to maybe emulate the fight that he had first time up with Jorge Masvidal, when he wrestled the living daylights out of him, foot stomped his way to a very easy victory. Maybe we get that, I don't know, but I can't see Leon Edwards being that susceptible to that line of attack. I think he's too good, too smart, and too sharp to allow that to happen. I think at certain points he's going to play out on the feet. If it does play out on the feet, is Kamaru shot shy? That's a heavy knockout. We don't know. We don't know how he's going to operate. I would like to think that him being the champion that I think he is, it's not going to affect him too much, and he will be of an elite level to be able to deal with that particular moment. But we just don't know. There's so many questions, so many imponderables. But I think what we're going to get is the fight that I originally thought we were going to get, where this is nip, tuck, you have success, I have success, and it comes down to that 5th round. Who can grind it out? Who can be smart? This is not going to be, I think, a battle of the physicals. This is going to be a battle of what goes on inside your brain, the smarts, the geography on the mat, the ring IQ. I think that is the thing that is going to win somebody this fight this weekend. And I'm edging towards Leon because of the confidence that he's bringing into it. But I'm edging that way because I've never seen Kamaru in this situation before. If Kamaru rises again and puts on a clinic, he's the absolute real deal and deserves to be spoken about amongst some of the very best to ever do it.
I agree. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think there are some people that are almost discrediting what Leon did. Oh, well, you got lucky, like you were saying before. But I think the way I look at it is, when I look at that first round, I think that first round shows enough to say that Leon can take it anywhere. He can take him down. He seemed very comfortable in the grappling exchanges, took his back very easily. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that's going to happen for the 4 or 5 rounds. Like you said, I think it's going to be a very close fight. But I do think that Leon has a much better chance than people are thinking. I mean, obviously, people are going to be backing him from England anyway. But I think in just the general MMA world, if you like, there's a lot of people that just think Kamaru's going to steamroll through him. And I just don't think Leon's going to be that easy to walk over, especially in London.
No, I completely agree. But it would not surprise me if either of these did something explosive early, within the first 10 minutes. I mean, we've seen Kamaru do it to Jorge, who's an elite striker, and he knocked him out. We've seen Leon do this to Kamaru. And we've seen him do it countless times before to very, very good strikers. So there's actually no result that I come away from Saturday night going, wow, I'm gobsmacked that happened. Not one. That is the sign of a sensational fight, a proper best against best of a particular weight division.
Prime.
They're both in their primes. They're both absolutely red hot. There's a question over Kamaru, can he bounce back? Apart from that, he's been absolutely perfect in the UFC, hasn't he? So I think we're in for a cracking fight, man.
I think the other question as well with Kamaru is, I found it really interesting that before he fought Leon the second time, you know, we saw him doing the face-offs with Jan, I think it was, or Yuri at the time, and he was talking about wanting to move up to 205. So the fact that he was in that mindset of maybe not necessarily looking past Leon. I don't think he was looking past him. He was just thinking what was next.
Yeah, you might be right. Let's be straight. This is a dude that was the pound-for-pound number 1 at the time, mopping the division up, on the verge of starting to lap the division. Where's the challenges, lads? You know what I mean? You told me Colby was the guy, and I've smacked him a couple of times. You told me Hoyer was the guy, I've smacked him a couple of times. Where's the guy? Oh, this Leon Edwards. Yeah, all right, sound.
Beat him once.
His conversation was about Canelo. His conversation was about stepping up in weight and doing all these other different things. Maybe you're right. Maybe his head wasn't in the game. What I will say is that he's dealt with the defeat incredibly classy. He hasn't made any excuses whatsoever. He's just gone, fair play, your night, see you soon. We see you soon on Saturday night, don't we?
The co-main event, explosive. It just screams fireworks to me. It seems like the judges won't need to have their scorecards ready, in my opinion at least. Rafael Fiziev against Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje, he just loves to brawl, but he could be such a better fighter if he used his wrestling, and it'd be interesting to see whether he'll utilize it or whether.
Why do you want him to? You don't want him to, man.
No, we don't want him to.
You're a fan.
Yeah.
You want to see Justin Gaethje do Justin Gaethje things. That's what you want to see him do. And if he does Justin Gaethje things at the weekend, you're in for another fight of the night bonus, fight of the night, fight of the year contender. You're in for an absolute firecracker because you've got Rafael Fiziev, who's one of the best kickboxers in the UFC, period, across every single division. He's absolutely brilliant. His grappling exchanges are actually quite solid. I think his takedown defense is really, really good. But you're right to bring up Division 1 wrestling as a prowess for Justin Gaethje. You know what Justin can do on the feet. He's tough as fuck. He can take knocks for days, but he can also dish them out. I think his kicks are absolutely top class. And we know that his offensive grappling is there. He just decides not to use it. I don't know why. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit of that.
Maybe he likes that 50K.
Nah, maybe, mate. I don't know. But we'll see a little. I think we'll see a little bit of that on Saturday night because I think there's going to be a moment where Justin Gaethje realises that he doesn't necessarily have to fight for us all the time. He can fight for himself. And fighting for himself, because his ambition is to become the UFC lightweight champion, I think if he fights for himself more, he'd have more success. He is a phenomenal fighter. He's a top bloke, in and out the octagon. Both are. It's just absolute peak MMA, that fight. Peak. The best against the best. Two lads that are just very good at what they do. And the styles are just going to mix in a way where the fans are just going to be salivating at it. Yes, Justin could at certain points of this fight take the path of least resistance and maybe edge himself out certain rounds. But it's Justin goddamn Gaethje, man. He ain't going to do that. He's going to stand there. He's going to go, you reckon you're a wicked kickboxer, yeah? Well, see if you can deal with this pressure because I'm like a concrete blanket, pal. And I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And I'm going to show you what the crack is. If it is that fight and it's purely that fight and there is no grappling and there's no wrestling, I would favour Fiziev, right? Because of how good he is on the feet. I think he's absolutely elite. But if Gaethje approaches this as a mixed martial arts contest, Justin Gaethje will win it. That's how finely balanced this is. I think it all comes down to what goes on in Justin Gaethje's head. He could win it, not easily, because he's still going to be asked massive questions from Fiziev, because Fiziev is the absolute business. If it plays out on the feet, Fiziev wins. Purely on the feet, Fiziev wins. If it plays out with a little bit of everything in there, I think Gaethje's more rounded, more experienced, been there, done it, got the t-shirt.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if it does go down that route because I look at Fiziev's last fight with RDA and he proved that he can go tough, he can go the distance and he can still pull off an impressive win.
That was one of the big questions, wasn't it? Can he do 25 minutes? Well, he didn't need 25 minutes. He finished it in the 5th round. But that was a question. Can you go the championship rounds? Yeah, you can.
Against someone who was championship level.
Who was former champion, yeah. Knows exactly what he's doing, yeah. He was great that night. And then, of course, put his foot down for a finish. That always bugs me a little bit. When you're winning a fight, are we going to coast this last 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Or are we putting a foot down and closing the show? Fiziev closed the show, man, and he closed it in style.
And I also think it'd it's nice to see a new name as well at the top of the lightweights. Because obviously for the last couple of years, it's been Gaethje, Poirier, Oliveira, obviously Makhachev as well.
Well, this fight in itself is kind of synonymous with, is this a changing of the guard? Because we've got those guys, those vets that have been there for time, those OGs, in Justin, in Poirier, in Oliveira, in these guys that have, they're still there. They're not going anywhere. They're still elite fighters. But we're this new crop of the Fizieves, Sarukians, Gamrots, all these guys coming through. One of them's going to break in. Who's to say it's not Fiziev? Because Fizieve's starting to take out former champions now. He's knocking on the door. This is your opportunity, pal. Infiltrate the top 5.
And the question is also with Gaethje, he's been in a lot of wars. And there's always going to come a point as to how many more can you take?
He's still young though, isn't he? He's still early 30s, I think, 31, 32. So I think that will come into fruition a little bit later. I don't think he's there yet. There's no signs of that yet.
I agree, but then also, like, you look at Tony Ferguson, and okay, he got dropped the fight before he fought Gaethje, but he went from being the boogeyman to then being absolutely
Gaethje was
smashed.
fantastic.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah, I look at the fight, which you can only go off your last performance, can't you? And it's been 10 months since we saw Justin in the octagon against Charles Oliveira. There's been fluctuation in the division. We've got a new champion. We've had a new challenger from a different weight division. All these types of things. But I look at that performance, and I just don't think Justin was at his very, very best that particular night. I don't know what it was. That wasn't the Justin Gaethje. I'm anticipating the best Justin Gaethje this weekend. Whatever happens result-wise, I'm anticipating the very best Justin Gaethje.
Kicking off the main card, Marvin Vettori against Roman Dolidze. Roman's just broken into the top 15 for the first time. Straight in the deep end against Marvin Vettori, someone who has had a lot of experience fighting the best of the best in the division. Obviously, he pulled up short, which is the biggest factor, but he's still got that experience of fighting Adesanya twice, fighting Robert Whittaker last. I think Roman Dolidze has been overlooked, I think, maybe a little bit going into this fight because of how talented he actually is.
Oh, yeah.
But because he's only just come into the division for the first time, people are just kind of think, oh, well, it should just be an easy win for Vettori. But I don't think it'll be that easy.
No. Listen, he's super talented, Roman Dolidze. His last couple of fights themselves just show how good this is because of the level of the opponent that he was fighting. Obviously, he's fallen short a couple of times in the UFC, but his last couple in particular, you look at him and go, this guy's got it now. He's got his mojo. He's got the swagger about him. He can do a lot. Where I think he's going to fall short in this fight is based on experience. And I know that Marvin Vettori is 29, still only technically a baby. He's 3-4 years away from his prime. This is a guy that has been he's seen the best.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing better than a Robert Whittaker. There ain't nothing better than a Israel Adesanya. He's seen the best of this division. And what I like about Marvin Vettori is that every single time he sees the best and maybe he falls short against the best, he goes away and he tries to add what he's seen from the best to his own particular arsenal. So for this particular camp, he cleared off to Thailand for ages because he was impressed with Robert Whittaker's kicks in the fight that they had in Paris. Cool. That's how you beat me. I'm going to stick that on my arsenal as well. We know what he's all about. He has got bollocks the size of King Kong, man. He is absolutely tough as they come, Marvin Vettori. Not to say that the Dolidze isn't, because he is. But Marvin Vettori, you've got to pin him. You've got to literally nail him to the canvas to get this dude out of there. I don't know if the Dolidze just now, I'm not saying he won't be in a year, 2, 3 years' time, but just now is cute enough to outthink and outwork Marvin Vettori. I would favour Vettori to get this done on a points decision. I think what we're going to see at the weekend is a really good bounce back from Vettori. He got outclassed against Whittaker. I think he'd be the first to admit that. Whittaker was absolutely sensational. I think coming into this against Dolidze, I think he'll control his emotions because he's an emotional dude. I think he'll control his emotions really, really well. I know that he's got a lot of friends and family coming to watch him this weekend, obviously with Italy just being across the pond. Not really true, but across a couple of countries, but it's very, very close, much closer than it is to Las Vegas. But I think he will want to just prove to himself that he's still the guy. And this is a new thing for him. This is the first time that I think he's fought someone lower than him in the rankings. Yeah. He's used to fighting people above him. So it's a different type of motivation. Hunter versus hunted type of mentality. I'm not saying that Roman won't give him hell, because he will give him hell and he'll throw the kitchen sink at him. but I think Marvin will just be too wily for him at the weekend.
I agree. I think Roman has got an incredible arsenal, but I just don't think he'll have what it takes to beat
Let's put it this way. If Roman Dolidze beats Marvin Vettori, that is a massive, massive statement.
That could probably be the biggest upset on the card.
Massive statement, man.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, and Marvin was telling us how, it's Marvin Vettori 3.0. And like you said, he wants to prove it to himself more than anyone else that, he deserves to be at the top.
Mate, he's a good kid. He gets a lot of bad rap because maybe his personality doesn't transcend and translate with people. He's a solid dude. He lives, breathes, and shits this game. He's here to be the best version of himself. And you can bet your bottom dollar he's not one of these that has been on the pot, eating crap since his Whittaker loss.
Committed.
Mate, straight back in the gym, fly into different parts of the world to learn, get better, grow. He's obsessed. That's the correct word. He's absolutely obsessed. And I think you're going to see a different version of him. Not a massively different version, but you're going to see a few more tweaks to his game come Saturday.
A few more fights. Makayev, 4th fight in a year since his debut in March last year. Like you mentioned before, it's a fight where it almost doesn't really give him much in terms of going up in the rankings because the guy he's fighting isn't, he's not...
Straight off the contender series is Filio, isn't it? So, it's an odd one for Mohammed to take this particular fight, especially having been so thirsty to be ranked by the back end of last year. I'm worried. I've got to be honest, I'm worried because Mo in his head, he's concentrating purely on being the youngest UFC champion. Now, listen, he's definitely maturing. He's just become a young dad, all these things happening in his real life. But he dislocated his shoulder 3 months ago.
Not a long time ago at all.
He's refused surgery. He's gone into camp. Yeah, it feels strong. I'll crack on. Come on, man. We've seen people do this before. You need to look after yourself. You need to do yourself right. You can't go into a fight and think to yourself, this guy's beneath me, which I think he is. I can beat him with one hand. Nah. You need your full arsenal to go and be able to do your thing. I fully anticipate a fully fit Mohammed Mokaev to make a mess of Filio. I don't know how fit Mo is. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know how fit he is. If he is fit and what he's telling me is true, you're going to get a masterclass, I think, from Mohammed Mokaev. If he's not fit, you might get some trouble, mate, on Saturday night. I hope not, because I like the kid. He's a brilliant fighter. And I would imagine that his next fight would be top 10, let's say a Tim Elliott or something like that.
Or Sumadaji, that'll be also a good fight.
I don't think he wants it, does he? I mean, how many of the top 10 does Mo bloody call out?
No one wants him.
And nobody sticks their hands up. I think Tim Elliott would. Tim Elliott's game as they come. I think he'd have a go with him.
That'd be a good fight for Mo as well, because someone that's had a lot of experience fighting the best of the best as well.
Yeah. You get that, you take his ranking, and then the top 5 can't ignore you. They've got to fight you because your next fight's an eliminator, because everybody's top of the division. You've just had, you've had a quadrilogy, whatever they've just played. God knows how many fights them two buggers have had. But then you've got a couple just piping up to have their shot. Whoever wins a title eliminator between 4 and 5, like, for example, fighting for the title this time next year.
Do you think his obsession over becoming the youngest ever UFC champion could be a detriment?
Only if you're going into a fight injured. That's it. Absolutely not anywhere else. If he's fully fit, no, man.
Yeah.
He's confident enough to beat the bloody lot of them. And I back him. I back him to beat a lot of them because he's so super talented. And look at the amateur pedigree that this kid's got. Absolutely, what a fighter. But if he's coming in at 60%, might run into something that he wouldn't necessarily normally run into.
Lastly, 2 other fighters making their debut from the Contender Series. We've got Sam Patterson from Watford and Chris Duncan from Scotland. Now, what I love about Sam Patterson, I saw with his interview with John Gooden, that he's taken a lot of inspiration from Leon in this fight, in being, Leon being the first guy to train from England and to be a champion. And he wanted to make he wanted to prove that he could, get to the UFC and win a UFC fight from his small gym in Watford. And I respect that a lot. And the one thing that I also rate about Sam is he's taken a very different career path, I think, to a lot of fighters in Britain, where he's gone and he's fought on a lot of European shows. He's gone to the Russians. He's fought in Russia and beaten.
He's at Brave, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's at Brave for a long time. And you see a lot of British fighters, the normal route is fight on Cage Warriors and then make a UFC debut and go that way. But I think even though he's not had, I think he's 9-0, Sam Patterson. I think even though he's not got too many professional fights, I think his experience in fighting European fighters that probably you wouldn't really hear of.
Yeah.
You go into Russia and fight a Russian. That's not
yeah.
fight. I think that experience could give him an edge going into this fight and having a great start to his UFC
Mate,
career.
he's good. He's very good. Like, I've known about Sam for a bit because obviously my relationship with John. John obviously trains in the same gaff. So he's on the mats with him, doing whatever he's doing with him. And he's highlighted his ability on several occasions way before he signed for the UFC and went on the Contender Series. And because of that, then you pay attention to stuff that he's doing in Brave. You can see technically he's good. I mean, look at him. For the weight that he's fighting in, he's big, he's long, he's rangy. He's just made for it. As long as he can keep making that weight, he's going to be a problem for a lot of people. I think technically he's very good. I think he showed that in the Contender Series. I'm absolutely delighted that he got the contract, and I'm even more delighted that he gets the opportunity to debut in front of home fans come the weekend. I mean, what an opportunity that he's straight off the Contender Series and he's straight on the prelims. Not everybody gets that. It's normally you're the curtain jerker on the early prelims. I mean, look at some of the people that are on the early prelims.
It's
I mean,
such great exposure.
Joe Wood, you know, who has been there, done it, and got the T-shirt. Joanne, you're on the early prelims, kid, because this new crop of talent's coming through. It's fantastic exposure for Sam. He's on BT Sport, first UFC fight. Go on, son, go and light the gaff up. Hopefully, the occasion doesn't take over him, because it can do. We don't know. We'll find out on Saturday.
The same can be said for Chris Duncan. He's coming off, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest ever knockout in Contender Series.
He's your mate, isn't he? I can tell the way that you speak about him. You know what I mean?
He's a great guy. I might have a bit of bias towards him, but I mean, the way he knocked out his last opponent, just one shot. I mean, he was rocked, and that's the question that you could say going into this fight is, he got the fantastic knockout, but he didn't look great in that first minute and a half. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, he's gone back to ATT this time around. The second time he's been in camp. He's trained with a Bellator champion, been around with Jorge, Grant Dawson, one of his main training partners. Like you said.
What's his inside leg measurement? You seem to know a lot about
it. I just think, again, like you said.
Listen, there's a lot of hype about him, isn't there? There's a lot of excitement because of his fighting style.
100% finish rate.
This is the thing. And when you speak to fans, what do you want out of MMA? You want to see finishes, you want to see viral moments, you want to see knockouts, you want to see subs. This kid, so far, at a level, has provided that. You're now in the Champions League, baby. Let's see what that's all about. Obviously, a great performance again on the Contender Series. Again, he got an opportunity in front of a massive packed-out arena to go and do his thing. There's nothing, with all due respect, against this level of opponent that makes me think to myself that is not going to happen. But if he goes in there and his eye's not fully on the ball, I mean, we've just been speaking massively about Rafael Fiziev, yeah? UFC debut got stopped. Popped in, fair enough, it's a last-minute situation for Fiziev, very, very different to this. Last minute, you get the call up. But pre-UFC, Fiziev was the absolute boy in kickboxing. He was the absolute boy at this level. Maybe he come in, didn't fully understand the levels, took his eye off the ball, got clipped, debut ends up not going his way. You've got to be super switched on. Don't care how good you are, these guys are good. They get the contracts because they're bloody good. You've got to be super switched on every single time that you walk in there. And he's one that I'm looking forward to. Do you know something? I'm really looking forward to seeing Jake Hadley this weekend, because Jake's obviously, he had a rough start to his UFC career, whether it were on, whether it were off, fights getting pulled, fights getting off, then he ended up getting beaten. But he's just got it sorted. He seems to have got it sorted. From afar, because I don't think I've ever been octagon side for one of his fights. But from afar, he seems to have got it sorted. And he's got it sorted on the low key. Whilst everybody else has been chirping up about British MMA over here, Jake's just gone and done his thing.
He's so solid, Jake. He's so well-rounded as well.
Mate, he's everything I've seen so far, when you're blending the mixed martial arts, that's the elite. That's the key. This kid now, he's fighting a former opponent of Mo Mokaev at the weekend. I can see where this narrative's going, UFC, right? I know what you're doing.
That would be a big fight. It could be a big fight down the line.
But they've basically gone to him, go make a statement. Go and do to this guy more than what Mohamed Mokaev did. That won't be missed on Jake. So he's got an opportunity now to go out there in front of the British fans for the first time, because he didn't perform on the shows last year.
And his first fight in front of a crowd, I think, because I think it was his first two on the Apex.
Yeah, you might be right, actually.
Yeah.
You might be right. It's definitely the first one in the UK, but I think you're right. I think they were behind closed doors, yeah.
I think I've got a feeling Dana's going to pull out a lot of 50 Gs on Saturday night. We hope.
Do you think? You think it's going to be finished silly, like he did last year when he just went, everybody gets a few quid. One thing I want to say, right, and I know that we've not spoken about him because maybe the super fight that we all wanted to see fell off with Nathaniel being out the fight, but I'm absolutely delighted that Lerone Murphy's still on the card because this is a young man that burst onto the scene. He's never fought in the UK under the UFC banner. He's always done it on Fight Island. He's always done it on Abu Dhabi. He has been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And when we're talking about everybody in this weight division being this and being that and being the business, I genuinely think this kid's the business, the absolute business. If you love watching striking, elite level striking, this kid's sensational. Listen, they've not fucked about with his replacement because yes, okay, it's a UFC debut, but they're bringing in a kid that's a killer from fucking Brazil.
LFA featherweight champion.
Mate, we're talking serious.
No joke.
So if Lerone comes through this, even though he's fighting a kid on a UFC debut, if they don't rank him on Tuesday morning, something's gone wrong because this is a level of opponent that we get to see just where Lerone's at. He's had short notice on it. Go on, son. You're getting your opportunity in front of British fight fans. I'm high as a kite on Lerone Murphy, and I hope this weekend, given the troubles that he's had, I mean, he had a bike accident and all this type of shit last year.
The epitome of his nickname, The Miracle.
Mate.
To get to where he
Mate,
is.
he survived loads of shit. Go and look his name up. Go and search his stuff. We're talking shootings. We're talking all sorts of random stuff, right? Check this kid out. If you like strikers, he's the guy to watch at the weekend. I think he's headlining the prelims. He's my tip for something special this weekend.
Make sure you tune in, BT Sport from 7 p.m. And there's also something special coming at 9 p.m. First time ever on BT Sport. Make sure you tune in. It's going to be a great night of fights.